What's going on, guys? This is Oliver, formerly from Response AI and a few other exited SaaS tools. In this video, we're going to be building a $1 million social media scheduling tool, completely vibe coded using Lovable and a few other tools. We're going to be going through how to actually set up the design, how to set up the dashboard, how to design this landing page, the video, how to get these sort of nice visuals done, how to set up some kind of pricing, and then importantly, how to actually set up the authentication at this level. So if we go over and just log in, got 222, and then I'm going to log in with my credentials. You'll see that we log in and it says already that I've got 5 scheduled tweets. We've got the upcoming tweets here, compose new tweet, view calendar, analytics. The compose button, compose tab, tells you that we can compose a tweet. We can choose the schedule date. We can choose the schedule time, and then the time zone of our scheduled, and then we're going to schedule for later. As you can see, these are the scheduled tweets. We've got the calendar that shows us the actual days of the tweets and what they're, what day they're on. And you can actually, click on these and see the preview of the tweets. You've got an ongoing calendar, so you can see all of the tweets that are upcoming in your, in your queue. You've got the settings, you've got the billing, and then obviously you've got the lovely queue here, and you can post the due tweets immediately. And then, of course, I'll talk about setting up a domain and actually deploying this. Now, I'm not going to be going through, in a traditional sense, like my other videos, I'm not going to go through the build like live, because I did this and it ended up being like 2 hours because I was doing loads of like random, like manual research on the API for X. So obviously, as you know, to post tweets from a software, we're going to have to actually create a connection with the API. Instead, I went through all of like the hard work and I just finished off with all of the actual prompts that completed the app. So we're going to start off. So make me a Twitter scheduling tool and landing page for this, and a login and sign up authentication page, a dashboard with a tweet scheduling queue, settings, billing, calendar, etc. Now, what I'm going to do, guys, is I'm going to be cutting from me talking about this to actual footage of me building this app. So you'll see, in general what I was doing. And obviously it says here, I'll create a beautiful Twitter scheduling tool with a modern SaaS design. You've got the signature, you've got the modern SaaS aesthetic, landing page, authentication, etc. It talked about the colors. It talked about all of the, sort of color grading, the features, the auth pages, etc. Then it said that it set up the stats and the tweet composer. And then it said that we needed to connect Supabase to actually get the login and sign up done. Now, once we did this, I actually went ahead and connected Supabase, and then I started the sign up and login flow. Crucially, I made sure that I had disabled the email authentication screen so that people can just log in. What I did then is I said, make this Supabase connection work for my sign up and login. So add functionality to the auth page to create accounts. And what it actually did is created the SQL. So in other words, when you go over to Supabase, you'll see that it created the tables for the profiles, and these later on were going to be actually keeping the tweets there and what times they had scheduled them for, etc. So all of the data and all of the database functions were created by Lovable in a couple of seconds. It said then that authentication is now fully connected to Supabase with sign up, login, etc. What I then said is to create the SQL code. So in other words, create the database code for the table, for the user's scheduled tweets, the times for them, the content of the tweets. And we also need to populate the actual queue page. So obviously, as you can see, guys, the queue page being this, we need to populate the queue page with the tweets and when they've scheduled them, etc., so they can come back to them. And then we need a count of the tweets for the analytics dashboard of how many tweets are scheduled, and then some dummy data for how many views the tweets got, the engagement, that kind of thing, because we haven't set up analytics for this this app. I said create the SQL for this. After this, we're going to actually set up the Twitter API or X API and give you the API keys, etc. It then said I'm going to create the database tables for the scheduled tweets with the proper RLS policies. And it said that it's going to connect the queue and the analytics page to display real data, so the scheduled tweets, etc. Now that it was created, I then said, okay, help me set up the X API so that we can create tweets and schedule them. And I need a walkthrough of this process and the callback URL, etc. What I then did is I actually copy and pasted all of the documentation from the X API. And I just asked Lovable to effectively tell me what it meant. It said step 1 was to configure the X developer app by choosing read and write. Then the type of app would be web app. The callback URI or URL would be my Lovable app, which at the time was just Tweet Whisperer app. Then it said you can use your actual app's URL if you have one, but we don't have one yet. Then it asked me to get all of my API keys. So we needed to get the API key, the API key secret, the access token secret, and then we needed to actually copy paste all of these into the secrets tab so that Supabase got our secrets. In other words, we needed to make sure that Supabase knew what our API keys were so it could post to X or Twitter. I'm going to call it X from here on out. It can post to X from our dashboard. So it said, go back to your developer portal and get all of these tokens. I then posted the tokens inside the secrets. And I said, okay, now here is the documentation for posting a tweet. And we need to create the functionality to get this going. So skip to main content. And then I just basically copy and pasted all of the documentation from the X API. So I went to X API and I went to getting started, and I then went down to posts, and you can see, or if we go to fundamentals, it just basically told you all of these different things, edit posts, etc. I posted the relevant ones that I thought were relevant pieces of documentation, for example, about scheduling tweets and creating tweets, and I just posted it all here. What it then did is it set up the integration to secure the credentials and my API keys, and it said XAPI integration complete, which I didn't believe, right? So I'm going to pan to basically my reaction to Lovable basically one-shotting this, having me never actually created an XAPI app before. And I said, can you add extensive logging? Because I don't actually believe that you have one-shotted this, keys and the secrets, etc., right? And it is claiming that the API integration is complete, right? So I just don't think this is true. I think you can post tweets immediately or schedule them, manually trigger the schedule post on the queue page. So basically, Lovable then said, I've added extensive logging to the edge functions. Now, the edge functions were basically the logs in the back end, so in Supabase, that told me what was happening and what tweets were being scheduled. What then happened is I scheduled a tweet for 11 minutes past 10 on my side, and it didn't work. And I asked Lovable, is this because the scheduler is broken or because it's on a different time zone to the UK? Because obviously 10 minutes past or 11 minutes past 10 p.m., it might have been 5 hours prior if Lovable had default created the app on US time, for example, Eastern time. It said it would check the logs to see what happened. It said it found the issue and the tweet is sitting in the database at scheduled, but the automatic process isn't running. What we did then, I asked it to set up a back-end function to basically check every minute of the day for the user's scheduled tweet and whether that minute matched up with the scheduled tweet time of the user. So it created the automatic processing with logs, and it said the tweet scheduled for 11 minutes past 10 should post automatically. I then said that this worked and you should add a new feature for me. Fix the calendar because the calendar is currently dummy data. So as you can see, this is a working calendar with the actual tweets. I said then add a previous tweets tab in the queue tab. Currently it's obviously empty because we haven't tweeted anything yet. And then I said make the entire app more minimalist, beautiful, linear, Attio style, which is just a UI I like, into style, no silly colors, soft borders, glassy, no colors except gray, white, dark gray, etc. And please make this the logo. And I'd actually posted the logo. You can't see it now, but it's just the XQ logo in the top left. And I said, do all that. The calendar now shows real data. The previous tweets tab was done, and then the minimalist redesign was done, and it branded with the XQ logo. I then asked it to make the logo a bit bigger. Now remember, guys, I don't want you guys to waste credits on Lovable because I have loads of credits. So I just started asking it dumb questions and doing really minimalist things. Like, you guys shouldn't waste a credit on making the logo bigger. You should basically compile loads of different requests for Lovable into one long message and one long request, instead of saying like, can you make the logo bigger? Because it's going to waste credits to just do that, instead of like basically piling all of your requests into one prompt, which means that you'll be more economic with your credits for Lovable. It said that it had created a bigger logo. And then I said, please design the landing page to have this layout, but they keep the copy from our X app. So what I did basically is, as you can see, the logout, and basically the landing page looks pretty similar to all of my other apps. I just like the minimalist design. I like the sort of grid layout. You've got the video that I'll explain how to create later on. Everything you need to manage your Twitter with the actual, features. Then we've got these beautiful designs and the animations that I created. I'll show you guys how to do that later. And it says loved by content creators, and we've got some fake reviews, and then the pricing. And from the pricing, you can obviously get started and you can log in. So from there, it said, I'll redesign the landing page, and it created it and it looked great. I said, to the feature section, add these gifs. So the feature section is obviously these three. And these are gifs that I created on Midjourney, and I'll explain how to do that soon. And I said, can you also add a video in the hero section? So this was the actual video that I created with Screen Studio and how I create these videos. And it's just a very, very simple tool that shows you the app, and it makes it look really, really nice. So every single app I've ever built, I've always used the Screen Studio app to create the demo. Now, I said, make the image of the building blocks I added black and white, very faded. In the end, I deleted this because it looked clunky, but this was meant to be some big like background image that looked kind of bad. And then I just showed it the GIFs. So I created the GIFs, I gave it to it. Then it didn't work because the cloud went down. I said, try again. I said, try again. And then it finally added them. I said, remove the most popular glitched tab at the top of the page, because there was some kind of glitch thing at the top here. And then I said, can you please add per card fade in animations to all pages? So what I mean by per card fade in is, as you can see, this card here, like this section fades in. Here, the sections fade in, and then on the overview, each card comes in separately, and it makes it look really pretty. All modules inside these pages should fade in beautifully on page load, and obviously we achieved that. It looks great. And what I did then, I said, change the calendar design to a per week, because it was showing like a really ugly giant calendar with like 30 days, and it looks so bad. So I said, can we schedule it per week and actually can we create a per week design? And this is what it did. And it looks so much better than what it did look like. And then obviously you can go to today. And you can also obviously go to, really far into the future. So you can schedule tweets really far into the future. It said it would redesign the calendar, which it did. It looked great. And it said calendar redesign to show weeks with tweets. Then I said clicking the pills should bring up a preview of the tweet, which was really important. So I said, find questions in your niche on Twitter. This is my tweet. And obviously it looks really, really clean when you just click on the tweet previews. It said, I'll add the tweet preview functionality, and it added it, and it was good to go. Then I said, can we make a grid design in the background to make it look beautiful? So as you can see really, really closely, there's a grid design in the background of the app. And then there was a misalignment, so I just asked it to realign the app. You see this thing, it was so petty, but this was misaligned. This line was a bit higher than this one, and I was like, we can't have that. I said the scheduled tweets should have their own loading animation, which they don't right now. That never got implemented, which is okay. Fix animation on the queue page as it's clunky, so that did get fixed because this was like coming in at random times. Then I said rebuild the animation from scratch because it's so ugly. Then I said, please make these people the faces of the testimonials on the landing page. So all I did was I created these in Midjourney as well. I'll show you this. And I just said, make these the faces and fix the dashboard overview animation as it's repeating itself. So when we went to the dashboard, as you can see, the cards were coming in, but then coming in like on repeat, and it looked terrible. So I said, fix that. Other pages are great. Then I said, change the Q logo on the sidebar to a clock icon and the compose button to a lightning icon, because I think all of these icons were the same. And then finally, I said, make this the header video and make it repeat itself. So this is just the video that we created earlier. I put it in, but it wasn't fixed. It wasn't like repeating itself. And now it obviously is. So that's how I actually did the video itself. And obviously you can see the overviews that I showed you. And then I just asked it to make the header bigger. Now, what we would do next is I would head over to the tab to actually publish it. What I would then do is go over to pork bun. I would then create I would then buy a domain on pork bun. And I've got a video for this, guys. I won't go through the Netlify deployment process in this video because I don't think it's necessary. So what we're going to actually do is go to Midjourney and I'll show you how I created the lovely visuals on the landing page, and I'll show you how I designed this. So if we quickly cover this, actually, what I did is I just went into my app and I used it while recording a video, and I did it a few times because I hadn't covered all the features, whatever it may be, and it just created this lovely video. And I chose the padding and the design background to fit the pink tree. And then I just exported it as an MP4. I then converted it to WebM because WebMs are much smaller files. And then I just asked Lovable to upload the video. And we've now got a beautiful header video and an actual sort of like demo of the app. Down here, I wanted a man sort of like looking at a calendar or like items on a board for the smart scheduling. I wanted a man sort of looking at, so these are actually meant to be the other way around. So that's meant to be the analytics dashboard or queue management, and then vice versa. That's okay. What I did is I went into Midjourney, and as you can see, there's loads of different style prompts that you can use in Midjourney, which you can do it for free. And I just said a man admiring his watch, and then for the queue scheduling, and then I use the sref 206989201. What you can do is look up sref for Midjourney, and basically you'll find all of these different like libraries of srefs. And what you can do is you can find a sort of a style that you like. So a style that I kind of like is this, for example. I'm going to click on this because it's like a Renaissance painting kind of thing. I can't actually find where the actual srefs are. Oh, so let's just do this. So I really like, what should we do? I quite like this one. It's like abstract, right? We're going to do the sref of that. Does that copy paste it? Yes, it does. So if we go over to Midjourney, I'm going to say a man admiring his watch, and I'm going to do the sref of that, and I'm going to do submit. Just remove that. What it's going to do now is create the image I described in that specific sref. So what you can do is create like a really like good brand feel in your app by creating images and videos and stuff like that with the same sref. So as you can see, this is for one of my other apps. As you can see, this is for the app that I've done today. There's like a wizard doing all these like concoctions and stuff like that. And then as you scroll down, there's all these different styles. There's a robot doing stuff. There's a man covering his face. This was for like an app I'm building that is a communications app. And as you can see, they're all beautiful. And what you can do then is once they're done, you can then ask to animate them. So I can choose to animate this, and it would click animate, and then it would cue an animation. But remember, and obviously what I've done there now is this is the actual like sref that we've created, and now you've got that. It doesn't look like the sref we've chosen, which is annoying. It doesn't look like the actual like abstract art. But as you can see, these sref that I've been using, they are more sort of reliable. So this sref, you've got this sref is beautiful as well. These look really dodgy. It's my own face. It looks stupid. As you scroll really far down, that sref makes really beautiful like watercolory images that are kind of like abstract. And then all I did was animate them, and then you can actually just export them as a GIF. And then what I would recommend doing, guys, is going to GIF to WebM, because WebMs are smaller. These are currently gifs because I was just in a rush, but you should probably make them WebMs because WebM is going to be much smaller. I'm trying to think of other stuff I haven't covered now. I think the only thing that I should cover in another video is how to set up Stripe pricing. So obviously you need to set up the actual trials. I'll do that in a separate video called how to set up Stripe payments. That'll probably be one of my next videos. And obviously from then, guys, all you have to do is actually add some of the other features that you like and want. But remember that the XAPI is quite expensive, but you can test with this free tier. So I can post 100 times this month, which is about 3 times a day, which is fine. For $200 a month, I can post 15,000 times. And then for $5,000 a month, I can post 1 million times. So it is expensive. I don't recommend using other dodgy APIs to try and do this. You should just be honest. But that is the app and how I've built it. And I hope you guys have enjoyed. Any problems at all, just give me a shout and obviously comment and I'll help you out. But take care, guys, and see you soon.